It ruled 70 million people, built roads still used today, and collapsed from within. This is the story of the greatest empire that ever existed.
At its peak, the Roman Empire ruled over 70 million people, one-third of the entire world's population. It stretched from Scotland to the Sahara Desert, from Portugal to the Persian border. Its roads, its laws, its language, and its architecture shaped every civilization that came after it. The English language, European law, Christianity, modern government, all of it traces back to Rome. And yet, this mighty empire rose from a single city on 7 hills, built by shepherds and farmers. And it fell apart from within, slowly, painfully, over centuries. This is the entire story of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. The traditional founding date of Rome is 753 BC, when, according to legend, twin brothers Romulus and Remus were raised by a she-wolf and went on to build a city on the 7 hills above the Tiber River. Romulus killed his brother in a dispute over the city's walls, declared himself king, and Rome was born. For its first 244 years, Rome was ruled by kings. Then in 509 BC, the Romans overthrew their last king, Tarquinius Superbus, the arrogant one, and established the Roman Republic. Power was shared between 2 elected consuls, a senate of aristocrats, and assemblies of citizens. It was not a perfect democracy, but it was the beginning of something the world had never seen before, a government accountable to its people. As Rome expanded across Italy, it collided with the most powerful empire of the ancient Mediterranean, Carthage. The 3 Punic Wars between Rome and Carthage defined an era. But nothing tested Rome like the Second Punic War, when the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca did the impossible. He marched an army of 40,000 soldiers and 37 war elephants across the Alps in winter and invaded Italy from the north. At the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC, Hannibal surrounded and destroyed a Roman army of 85,000 men, one of the worst defeats in military history. And yet Rome did not surrender. It raised new armies, found new generals, and fought back. General Scipio Africanus took the war to Africa, defeating Hannibal at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Carthage fell. Rome had survived its greatest test and emerged stronger than ever. By the 1st century BC, the Republic was straining under the weight of its own success. Vast wealth from conquered territories flowed into Rome, but most of it went to a tiny aristocratic elite. Ordinary Romans grew poorer. Generals with personal armies became more powerful than the Senate. Into this crisis stepped Gaius Julius Caesar, the most brilliant military commander and political operator Rome had ever produced. He conquered Gaul, modern France, in 8 years, writing his own account of the campaign in brilliant literary Latin. He crossed the Rubicon River in 49 BC with his army, an act of outright civil war, defeated his rival Pompey, and made himself dictator of Rome. He introduced the Julian calendar, reformed the Senate, and gave citizenship to conquered peoples. But on the Ides of March, 44 BC, a group of senators led by Brutus and Cassius stabbed him 23 times on the floor of the Senate. The Republic's last defender, or its last destroyer, was dead. Caesar's assassination did not restore the Republic. It destroyed it. After years of civil war between Caesar's allies and his assassins, his adopted son Octavian emerged victorious. In 27 BC, the Senate granted Octavian the title Augustus, the revered one. He became Rome's first emperor, but Augustus was clever enough never to call himself king. He maintained the illusion of the Republic while holding absolute power. Under Augustus, Rome entered its golden age, the Pax Romana, 200 years of relative peace. He built monuments, patronized the arts, reformed the army, and expanded the empire's frontiers. The poet Virgil wrote the Aeneid. The historian Livy recorded Rome's history. The architect Vitruvius wrote the principles of classical architecture that still influence buildings today. Augustus once said, "I found Rome a city of bricks. I left it a city of marble." The 1st and 2nd centuries AD represent the absolute peak of Roman civilization. The 5 good emperors, Nerva, Trajan, Hadrian, Antoninus Pius, and Marcus Aurelius, gave Rome its finest era of governance. Emperor Trajan expanded the empire to its greatest ever extent, from Scotland's Hadrian's Wall to the Persian Gulf. Rome's engineering achievements were breathtaking. The Colosseum, the Pantheon, the aqueducts, the 400,000 kilometers of roads connecting every corner of the empire. Roman concrete was so advanced that structures built 2,000 years ago still stand today. At its peak, the city of Rome had over 1 million inhabitants, the largest city on earth. A citizen could travel from Britain to Egypt on Roman roads, using Roman currency, protected by Roman law. No empire before or since has provided such a unified system of civilization. But even the mightiest structures develop cracks. The 3rd century AD, from 235 to 284 AD, is known as the crisis of the 3rd century. In just 50 years, Rome had 26 different emperors, most of them assassinated by their own soldiers. The empire fractured into 3 separate competing states. Barbarian tribes raided across the borders. Plague swept through the empire, killing millions. The economy collapsed. The silver content of Roman coins was debased from 85% to just 5%. Hyperinflation destroyed the middle class. Trade networks broke down. The magnificent roads fell into disrepair. Rome was not defeated by a foreign enemy. It was rotting from within. A new emperor, Diocletian, eventually stabilized the empire, but he did so by splitting it into 2 halves, east and west. That division would prove fatal. In 312 AD, Emperor Constantine saw a vision, a cross of light in the sky before the Battle of Milvian Bridge, and converted to Christianity. He issued the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, making Christianity legal throughout the empire. Within decades, the faith that Rome had once persecuted, feeding Christians to lions in the very Colosseum, became the official state religion. Constantine moved the empire's capital from Rome to a new city in the east, Constantinople, modern Istanbul. This decision was momentous. The center of Roman power shifted east, leaving the Western Empire weakened and vulnerable. Meanwhile, Christianity transformed Roman culture, art, and architecture. The great basilicas and cathedrals of Europe grew from Roman engineering. The Pope in Rome inherited the administrative structure of the empire itself. Rome died and was reborn as the Catholic Church. By the late 4th century, the Western Roman Empire was hemorrhaging. The Huns, a terrifying nomadic people from Central Asia, swept westward, pushing Germanic tribes across the Roman border in panic. In 376 AD, over 1 million Visigoths crossed the Danube into Roman territory, not as invaders, but as refugees fleeing the Huns. The Romans mistreated them. They revolted. At the Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD, the Visigoth army destroyed a Roman force and killed Emperor Valens, a catastrophic shock to Roman confidence. In 410 AD, the Visigoth king Alaric did the unthinkable. He sacked Rome itself. For the first time in 800 years, a foreign enemy had entered and plundered the eternal city. The psychological impact across the empire was devastating. Citizens who had believed Rome was eternal now knew it could fall. The Western Roman Empire spent its final decades in accelerating collapse. Emperors were puppets of barbarian generals. Territory was lost year after year. In 455 AD, the Vandals sacked Rome again, even more brutally than the Visigoths. Then on September 4th, 476 AD, the date historians mark as the fall of the Western Roman Empire, the Germanic chieftain Odoacer deposed the last Western emperor, a teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus. The name was bitterly ironic. Romulus, the founder's name. Augustus, the first emperor's title. The last emperor of Rome carried both names and was removed without ceremony, exiled to a castle in Campania, given a pension, and forgotten. No great battle, no heroic last stand. just a quiet administrative end. The greatest empire in history closed, not with a roar, but with a whisper. But Rome never truly died. The Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, survived for another 1,000 years, until 1453 AD. The Catholic Church carried Roman administrative structure, Latin language, and Roman law across Europe for centuries. Every European language today contains thousands of Latin words. The months of our calendar, January, February, March, are Roman. Our legal systems, our republican governments, our architecture, our very alphabet, all Roman. The roads Hadrian's engineers built in Britain are still used today. Roman concrete structures have outlasted every building material invented since. Julius Caesar gave us the word Kaiser in German and Tsar in Russian. And when America's founders designed a new democracy, they looked to the Roman Republic for their model. Rome fell, but it never stopped ruling. From a city of shepherds on 7 hills to the master of the known world. From the Punic Wars to Pax Romana. From the genius of Caesar to the tragedy of the last emperor. From an empire of marble and legions to a legacy written into every corner of modern civilization. Rome did not just build an empire. It built the foundation on which the entire Western world still stands. They called it the Eternal City, and they were right. Not because its empire lasted forever, but because what it created never stopped mattering. This has been the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and stay with us. Because history is not just the past.
Thank you for watching.